we are going to talk about is some versus any. So we use some and any when we talk about number of something. Usually we use them to talk about something uncountable. Okay, so do you remember the difference between countable and uncountable? All right, so usually we use some for positive sentences. For example, we can say there is, it's very important that we use is because we're talking about uncountable. There is some water. If we want to say countable, we also can say it, but we will say there are, because we're talking about something countable and not about one, just 2 or 3. There are some, and then your word, for example, apples, will come with s at the end. There are some apples. While we use any to say the same sentence, but negative or question. So look, for negative question, we should say there isn't, again uncountable, any water. Or we can say there aren't any apples. Okay? Is it easy? Now look, in English language we cannot have double negative. That's why when we say not here, we cannot say no water. It's impossible because we cannot have double negative. But if you want to say no, you should say something like this. There is, and then you can say no water. Sentences are absolutely synonyms. You can say there isn't any water, or you can say there is no water. Okay? Easy? The same here. How would you say this sentence with no? There
are no apples.
There are no apples, absolutely. Now, when we ask questions, we use any. For example, is there any water? Or are there any apples? Okay? Alright, now we have questions. How much and how many? What do you use with the word water? How much or how many? How much water? How much water, for example, is there? Or we ask how, what's about apples?
How many apples?
How many apples? I agree. How many apples are there? So that's absolutely right. Now, you should understand that we use how much and how many in question sentences and negative sentences. For example, there isn't much water, but we cannot use much and many to talk about positive events, okay? So we cannot use them in positive sentences. For example, here, there aren't many apples. Also, we have 2 words, few and little. Do you know the difference between a few and a little?
No, but some and any.
Yes, it is something like some and any. So, yes, we have them. So, the difference is just that we use a little with uncountables and a few with countables. That's why we can say there is a little water, but there are a few apples. Okay? So, the difference between some and a little is that some is that when it is enough for me. For example, I have some water and it is enough for me. And we use a little to talk about like quantity of something that is not enough. For example, if I have 500 milliliters of water, it is enough for me, and I can say there is some water, and it is good for me. But if I have 50 milliliters of water, then there is a little water, and it is not enough for me. Okay? We can use a little and a few in positive sentences. Alright? But we don't use them in negatives or questions. Usually, but sometimes it's possible. And the last one, a lot of. Usually we use a lot of in positive sentences too. For example, there is a lot of water. You can use a lot of with countable and uncountable. There are a lot of apples. Is it clear? So, do you have any questions? No. Then, generally, that's all of our grammar for today. Let's copy it to our copybooks.